All right, get ready to dive deep, everyone. We've got League of Legends, patch 25.S1.1. And wow, is there a lot to unpack?
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. This patch is massive.
I mean, not only are we kicking off Season 1, but it looks like Noxus has decided to take over too.
It really does feel that way, visually at least.
So we're talking like a full-on Noxian makeover for the Rift.
Pretty much. You'll see Noxian-themed minions and turrets. Even the shopkeeper's got a Noxian makeover.
But the actual map layout and gameplay, that's all staying the same, right?
Exactly. They've made sure to emphasize that it's all visual, so no worries about competitive integrity being compromised.
Okay, good. Because some of the screenshots I saw, I was like, whoa, is that even the same Rift?
It's definitely a striking change. Some areas are completely transformed, like the lanes. You'll definitely feel like you're in Noxus.
But other areas, they've kind of kept the original feel.
Right, like the blue buff zone, they've kept some of that unique character.
It's kind of cool. Like, you can almost see how Noxus is expanding its influence across the Rift.
Yeah, it's a nice blend of new and familiar. But visual updates aside, let's talk about the gameplay changes. And there are a lot.
Starting with this new epic monster, Atakan, right?
Yep, Atakan. And let me tell you, this thing is a game changer.
So it spawns at 20 minutes, but the location can change.
Not just the location, even its form, it all depends on what happens in the early game.
Hold on, wait. It can change forms. Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
By 14 minutes, you'll see Atakan's pit appear in the river, but which side of the river depends on where most of the action happened in the early game. Whichever lane had more champion damage and kills.
So, like, if everyone's fighting in top lane, Atakan will spawn near top.
Exactly. Then at 20 minutes, it spawns. But there are two possible forms it can take.
Oh, man. This is getting complicated. Lay it on me. What are the two forms?
So in games where teams are playing more passively, fewer kills, less aggression, you'll get Voracious Atakan.
Okay. Voracious Atakan. What's so special about him?
Taking him down gives your whole team temporary death mitigation, like a one-time guardian angel for everyone, plus bonus gold from takedowns.
So it actually rewards teams for playing safe and strategically.
Exactly. It's like they're trying to encourage a less chaotic early game.
I like that. But what about the other form? What happens if things get crazy in the early game?
Then you get Ruinous Atakan. Think of him as the more powerful, more dangerous version.
And defeating him gives.
Well, it's tougher to take him down, but if you do, it boosts all epic monster rewards for the rest of the game. Plus, it spawns these things called blood roses.
Blood roses, what in the world are those?
They grant XP and a stacking adaptive force buff to your whole team. Imagine how powerful that could be in a late game team fight.
Oh, wow. Okay, so basically this Atakan is going to completely change how teams approach the mid-game.
I think so. Do you go for those early kills and risk facing a super-powered Atakan? Or play it safe and maybe miss out on those boosted rewards? It's a tough decision.
And on top of all that, they've changed the spawn timers for Rift Herald and Baron too, right?
Yep. Pushed back to 16 minutes and 25 minutes, respectively.
So everything's shifting later in the game. It's like they're trying to create this whole new dynamic for the mid-game where your early actions really have an impact.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
I can't wait to see what kind of new strategies emerge.
We talked about Atakan and how it really shakes up those mid-game objectives.
Right. Everything is sort of getting pushed later.
And it's not just the epic monsters. Even the lane minions are getting some tweaks.
Oh, yeah. What's going on with them?
Well, it's all about fine-tuning that early game, making it less punishing, especially if you're behind.
So if you're getting, like, completely stomped in lane.
Exactly. You're not totally out of it. One of the big changes is to wave clear speed. They've made it so that minion waves clear out quicker.
So the waves are smaller. Less minions overall.
Not necessarily less minions overall. It's more about how fast they clear each other out, which means smaller waves reaching the turrets.
Okay, I see. And that helps how?
Well, think about it. If you're behind, you're getting less pressure from those huge waves crashing into your tower.
Oh, right, right. So you have more breathing room to farm.
Yeah, and less chance of getting completely overrun.
So it's more about those manageable skirmishes instead of those huge minion brawls.
Exactly. And it also affects last hitting and turret damage.
Oh, right. I bet they nerfed minion damage then.
They did adjust it, but not necessarily nerfed it across the board. The idea is that even though the waves clear faster, last hitting should still feel relatively the same. And the overall damage to champs and turrets, it's balanced out.
So minions aren't suddenly useless or anything?
Nope, they're still important. In fact, they've actually extended minion scaling into the late game.
Hold on. So minions are going to be stronger in the late game now.
Well, yeah, they'll scale a bit more than they used to, but they capped it, of course.
So we won't see like super minions running around at 40 minutes.
Haha, no super minions, but it does mean that minions can still play a role in those late game pushes and sieges.
It makes sense. All right, let's shift gears a bit and talk about turrets.
Ah, yes, turrets. They're getting a bit more bite.
Oh, how so?
Well, first of all, they've increased the damage amp when a turret gets heated up, and the duration of that heat state, too.
So think twice before tower diving.
Exactly. You're going to take a lot more damage if you dive now, especially if the turret has been attacked recently.
So defending is going to be a bit easier. But didn't I read something about the fortification effect getting changed too?
You did. It's all about balance, right? They buffed the damage for those who are attacking the turret.
So, like, it's easier to chip away at that turret health early on.
Yeah, more chances to grab those turret plates and get that early gold advantage.
So it's kind of like two sides of the same coin. Make turret diving riskier, but also make it a bit easier to take them down strategically.
Exactly. They want to see a more dynamic laning phase, where things aren't decided so early on.
Okay, all of these changes are making my head spin a little, but in a good way. But let's talk about something completely different. This new Swift Play game mode.
Oh, yeah. Swift Play. You excited about this one?
Definitely. Faster-paced Summoner's Rift. Sign me up.
Right. It's all about getting right to the good stuff. Laning, team fights, leveling up your champ, but in a shorter time frame.
So for those days when you're craving League but don't have an hour to spare.
Exactly. And here's something else. It's more forgiving, especially if you make mistakes in the early games.
So you're not as likely to get totally shut down if you fall behind.
Right. It's more about enjoying those core gameplay loops, but without the massive time commitment.
I love that. Wait, didn't I see that they added Swift Play to co-op versus AI too?
They did. So now you can practice new champs or try out builds against bots, but with those faster-paced rules.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So much easier to learn new champs without feeling like you're stuck in a game forever.
And honestly, sometimes it's just fun to play against bots.
Yeah, especially with friends. No pressure. Just fun.
Exactly. So we've got minions, turrets, swift play, but what about ranked?
Ah, yes. Ranked. The real test. Season 1 is starting with this patch, right?
It is. The climb begins January 9th, and there are a few notable changes coming with it.
Like what? Hit me with the details.
Well, first of all, the Apex Duo MMR restriction is gone. Temporarily, at least.
Wait, seriously? So I can finally queue with my friends who are a few divisions below me?
Yep. No more MMR restrictions, so queue up with whoever you want.
That's amazing. Finally.
They also changed up the requirements for the Victorious skin.
Oh, yeah. How many wins do you need this time?
Only 15. Either in solo duo or flex queue, so pretty achievable.
15 wins. Oh, I can totally do that. Anything else?
The big one is that this season's reset will be the only reset for the entire year.
Hold on, wait. Only one reset for all of 2025.
That's right. One and done.
Wow. I bet some players are going to love that.
Yeah, no more mid-year reset to worry about. Just focus on climbing that ladder.
Okay, I'm curious to see how that impacts the ranked scene. Speaking of keeping things fresh, what's this about a Mythic shop rotation?
Ah, yes. The Mythic shop, they're updating it every patch now, starting with patch 25.S1.1.
Every patch. So no more waiting months for a skin to come back.
That's the idea. Keep things exciting, give players a reason to keep coming back.
And what's coming in this first rotation?
Lunar New Year stuff, prestige skins, chromas, icons. It's going to be epic.
Ooh, I'm definitely going to have to check that out. Okay, before we move on to champions and items, did they fix any of those bugs? I'm looking at you, Annie's Q.
Oh, don't worry. There are plenty of bug fixes in this patch.
Yeah.
Annie's Q should be working as intended now.
Thank goodness for that. I was starting to think that mana refund was just random.
They also made some nice quality of life improvements. The multiplayer practice tool now supports up to 10 players.
Nice. More room for chaos.
Exactly. And league client load times, those have been improved too.
Hallelujah. I was starting to think my computer was going to catch fire every time I tried to launch the client.
Oh, and they also changed champion bounties.
Really? What did they do?
Simplified the rules for underperforming champs. Made it easier to understand how those bounties are calculated.
So, less punishing to fall behind, but those shutdown kills are still valuable.
Exactly. It's all about those subtle shifts in how the game flows. So, ready to move on to champion adjustments.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah?
Hit me with the biggest changes.
All right, let's start with Ash. She got a few interesting tweaks. They toned down her early game power a bit.
Makes sense. She was kind of dominating early.
Right. But the big change is to her Frost Shot passive. Now it always applies bonus damage, even if you don't slow the target.
Oh, that's nice. No more feeling like your passive is useless if you miss that volley.
Exactly. They also adjusted her volley, by the way. It scales more with bonus AD now, so weaker early, stronger late.
Got it. So shifting her power a bit more toward the late game. Okay, what about Callista? Any big changes there?
Oh yeah, Callista got quite a few adjustments. They increased her base mana regen.
Thank goodness. I always felt like she ran out of mana so quickly.
Right, so that should help her late game, but they did nerf her damage a bit to compensate.
Yeah, figured as much.
Her Pierce, her Q, has lower base damage now and costs more mana. And Rend, her E, also does less damage, especially early on.
So her early game poke and burst are weaker.
Yeah, but here's the interesting part. They made her dashes way more resistant to slows.
Wait, really? So even if she gets hit by a slow, she can still kite like crazy?
Pretty much. They completely reworked how her dash speed is calculated so those attack speed slows won't cripple her as much.
Interesting. So weaker burst, but more slippery? Overall, I guess it's a nerf to her early game, but maybe a buff to her late game.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. Make her a bit more balanced throughout the game. Okay, let's move on to Twitch and Varus.
What did they do to my rat man?
Twitch got a little love for AP builds. They reverted that nerf to his Venom cast.
Oh, nice. So his W is more effective with AP now.
Yep. Might see a resurgence of AP Twitch. We'll have to wait and see.
I'm going to have to try that out. What about Varus? Any changes to him?
They adjusted his mana, lowered his base mana and the cost of his Q, but increased the mana cost of his E.
So they want you to use Piercing Arrow more and Hail of Arrows less.
That seems to be the goal. Reward those skillful snipes.
I like it. Make him more of a skill shot champion.
They also buffed the damage on his Blighted Quiver, but it's spread out over multiple ranks, so weaker early, stronger late.
Ah, the classic late game buff. Makes sense. Okay, we've talked about champions, but you mentioned a new item too, right?
Oh yeah, Bloodletter's Curse. This one is for the AP Bruisers.
AP Bruisers, huh? So like Mordekaiser, Gwen.
Exactly. It gives them some much-needed magic penetration.
Okay, tell me more. How does it work?
The passive is called Vile Decay, and every time you hit someone with an ability or your passive, it reduces their magic resist.
Ooh, magic resist shred. That's nasty.
It stacks up to 30%, so you can really melt those tanks.
Oh, man. I can see this item becoming a must-have for AP Bruisers.
I think so too. It's going to shake things up for sure.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today. A new season, a Noxian takeover, a brand new epic monster, a teleport rework, champion adjustments, a new item. I'm exhausted just thinking about it all.
It's a lot to process, that's for sure. But it's also what makes League of Legends so great. It's constantly evolving.
And who knows what other surprises they have in store for us this season.
Right. This is just the beginning.
Well, I think it's time for me to jump back into the Rift and experience all these changes myself. What about you?
Same here. I'm eager to see how these changes play out in real games.
All right, everyone. That's it for this deep dive into League of Legends patch 25.S1.1. Get out there, try out the new stuff, and let us know what you think. Until next time, may your games be filled with epic moments and glorious victories.